Hello and welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Theo Mujoro, your host for tonight's show. Let's have a look at today's front page of Namibian Sun. So tonight we are welcoming back to the show the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission of Namibia, Theo Mujoro, to talk to us about partially the preparedness of the Commission ahead of the November elections. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Mujoro.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. So you are a very experienced man in the space of elections, but where you are not experienced perhaps is having elections in times of COVID-19. How is that coming along under the circumstances?
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, you are right that we are going through unprecedented times.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first time in the history of our country where we are required to conduct an election at a national level, you know, against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
But certainly also, I think the year 2020 is really the first time even other countries have had to organize their elections under these circumstances. You know, when you look at the nature of organizing elections, I think at all material stages of the electoral process, you have a situation where people must congregate in close proximity. When you look at training of election officials, when you look at conducting voter education sessions, political campaign activities, not to mention the actual voting process. People congregate in close proximity, and for that reason they become susceptible to contracting the COVID-19 disease. So it's a very unique circumstance we are operating in. Now, when this outbreak occurred, reached the shores of our country, was about the same time when we were basically starting to organize, basically conceptualize the electoral calendar, which maps out all the key activities in the build up to the day of elections. So our first preoccupation was then, how do you organize a credible election while at the same time securing the health and safety of all of those who will be participating in the various electoral activities, whether it's the voters, whether it's political parties, civil society organizations, electoral staff, all of these people. How do you put them in a situation where they could contract this disease, but at the same time keeping in mind that you need to deliver a credible election. So what we have done at Toibo, we have worked very closely with the Ministry of Health and Social Services. We have developed a very comprehensive strategy, which we call the ECN's COVID-19 mitigation strategy. What it does in a nutshell really is that it maps out the activities and then it recommends the measures to be applied in all of these activities. When you are having electoral staff in at a particular venue, how do you go about conducting the training while you ensuring the safety of these people? So
yes. Yes.
And I think we have read enough health literacy
Yeah.
in terms of the measures that are out there that can be applied
Sure.
in different situations. So in our case, we are implementing a number of them. When you participate in electoral activities, it is an obligation that you wear a face mask, for example.
Yes.
And I think this was visible during the supplementary registration process that we conducted somewhere mid-September. All the people who visited the various registration venues, you are required to wear your face mask. In addition to that, obviously, you are required to make sure that you maintain the required social distance between yourself and the person in front of you or behind you.
Yeah.
When you go inside a venue for electoral purposes, whether it's to be registered as a voter or to cast your vote, you will notice that we will be constantly disinfecting our material and our equipment, whether it is the pencil to be used or whatever the case may be. In addition to that, we will make sure that when party agents are sitting within the precinct of a polling station, observing the electoral process, that they then also maintain the required social distance.
Indeed.
So we have benefited a lot from the health literacy provided by the Ministry of Health. But I must also mention that the strategy that we are implementing in the electoral process is really to reinforce the already existing national health protocols that are being implemented by the Ministry of Health currently. So just to ensure that in as much as nationally protocols are being observed, just to make sure that when it comes to the electoral process, that we do our bit to make sure that we can protect people as they participate in the various aspects of the elections.
Indeed.
So we have done our part in as far as that is concerned. I must also mention here that when we developed the strategy, we have engaged our political parties. We have engaged, we have received input from civil society organizations. And obviously, we then finally got the nod from the Minister of Health. So it's a very watertight, solid document.
Indeed.
Yes.
Now, in terms of the I mean, we are already battling for a long time the low voter turnout sometimes. Do you anticipate even a worse one because of COVID-19?
You know, I think we are looking at a different picture in terms of the forthcoming elections. I'm mindful of the fact that there is the COVID-19 reality and that people may be skeptical or scared to participate, to join long queues, to join long queues where people are congregated in close proximity in large numbers, for the fear of contracting the virus. However, I think when you look at the political landscape currently, the dynamics are different. When you look at the new political formations, you would recall that a few months ago, we have registered a new political party. But in addition to that, we have registered a number of associations that have registered to contest local authority elections in a number of local authorities countrywide. But in addition to that, you also see the phenomenon of the independent candidates. For me, all of these developments really are indicative of perhaps a changing political environment, and therefore also the interest on the part of the voters.
So there's appetite.
So, given the current situation, my belief is that we will observe a higher voter turnout in the forthcoming elections compared to 2015, for example, when we have when we held similar elections, or the other previous regional local authority elections that we held at the national level. I think the landscape looks different right now. And for that reason, I believe that we will observe, we will have a good election experience. And I think the turnout will be, a much improved one. Obviously, I must also mention here that in as much as there appear to be hype and political interest, as the Electoral Commission, we are also doing our bit to make sure that we intensify our voter education program, that we reach out especially to the young people, but more so to everybody else, so that people can realize the importance of the forthcoming elections, and so that people, would come out in large numbers. Not forgetting that we are transiting from EVMs to ballot papers. We are also doing our best as part of our voter education drive to make sure that we reorient, the people's mindsets, so that people understand that instead of pressing a button, you'd be required to take a pencil or a pen and basically cast, place a mark or a cross on your ballot paper, fold it, and insert it into a ballot box. So we are doing a lot in terms of outreach, in terms of educating, but also with a small component of training in terms of the posters that we are putting out there, through which we are trying to practically demonstrate what is actually expected from our voters, even when they enter a polling station.
Indeed. And in terms of resources in this limping economy of ours, how is the situation?
I think we are okay in terms of the financial resources that have been put at our disposal as the Electoral Commission to be able to conduct the forthcoming elections. We have had consultations at the technical level with the ED of Minister of Finance, and I think Treasury indicated that they will meet our shortfalls wherever we may experience shortfalls. So we have the full confidence in our system, in Treasury, that where we have a need, they will be able to come through to enable us to, implement the electoral calendar fully.
Indeed. Another new phenomenon, Mr. Mujoro, would be the independent candidate phenomenon, which has always existed in law, but in reality it has never been at this level of participation. 93 independent candidates for regional authority elections. That's a huge number. What does this mean to you guys when you are presented with a situation like that? Does it? What are your views? When you look back in 2015, we had 5 independent candidates across the 121 constituencies. This year, as you rightly said, we are looking at about 93 independent candidates countrywide. I think from a logistical perspective, in terms of managing the process, an independent candidate is the same as a candidate representing a political party. But of course, it appears from the look of things that when you look at the number of candidates contesting a particular constituency, we will be having more candidates on the ballot paper because of the additional number of independent candidates as opposed to traditional political parties. So I think from a logistical standpoint, I think it will be business as usual in terms of managing and administering the process. It's just an additional candidate. But I think maybe from the perspective of a voter, or looking at it from the larger political context, maybe one could have different interpretations. But purely from organizing elections, I think I do not foresee difficulties because of the fact that we now have these many numbers of independent candidates. Let's talk briefly about the registration process of voters. It occurred during perhaps at the climax of this pandemic, and we saw it happened during the lockdown, partial lockdown of the country, and we saw movements like affirmative repositioning actually appealing to ECN at the time to say you must extend and whatnot. You did not extend. Are you having confidence that the process was okay? What was
we really confident that the numbers that we have captured were sufficient. But I think it's important to look at the fact that supplementary registration is exactly what it is, to supplement an existing register, okay,
Yeah.
by adding either new voters, people who have just turned 18 years during the intervening period, or by allowing an opportunity for somebody who may have lost their voter card, but importantly also somebody who may have moved address in terms of their constituencies,
Yes.
so that they are able to be registered afresh and receive new voter cards that reflect details of their new locality where they now live. So, but when you look at the National Voters Register,
Yeah.
before the supplementary registration process,
Yeah.
we had a National Voters Register that stood at about 1.3 million registered voters. Do not forget that that is more than 50%
Yeah.
of our total population in Namibia. So from that angle, we are satisfied that the National Voters Register, it's a healthy one.
Yeah.
We are maintaining healthy, credible voters registers in terms of the numbers.
Yeah.
Similarly, also when you look at the local authority voters registers, we know that during the supplementary registration of last year, as we were preparing for the presidential National Assembly elections,
Yeah.
we know that a substantial number of voters could not be registered for the local authority elections,
Yeah.
because in terms of the law, you register voters in respect to the election that you are preparing for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is why during our outreach and during our voter education campaign, we have placed emphasis on the fact that if you live in a local authority, you have lived there for a period of more than 12 months consecutively,
Yeah.
and when you were registered as a voter, your current voter card reflects under the local authority as being not applicable. In our messaging to the public, to the electorate, we have been urging people whose voters cards are written not applicable for local authority
Yeah.
to make an effort to visit the nearest registration venues so that they can be registered and receive voter cards that reflects the correct details. So I think the problem was not really the time period.
Yeah.
The problem was this habit of our people to always want to come on the last day at the last minute. I think that was the problem.
Yes.
Because when you look at the trends in terms of people being registered during that particular period,
Yeah.
I think we have registered more than 60% of the people that were registered for the entire period in the last 2-3 days of the process. And I think that is indicative of the fact that in as much as you try to encourage people to go to registration venues as early enough in the process, people do not heed that call. They would come to the last minute, and as a result of that, they would then place undue pressure on the registration teams, registering people. But I think we have done well in terms of redirecting, especially mobile teams that were operating in the outskirts of the constituencies to quickly move to the centers, especially urban centers, to be able to reinforce capacity. And when you look at the numbers that we captured, I think we are satisfied. We are currently, I must also mention here that following the supplementary registration process, we have compiled what we call a provisional voters register. It was displayed for objections, and I'm happy to mention here that we have received no objections whatsoever. It is important to mention this point because during the registration process, we have noted reports from the Keetmanshoop urban constituency and other places. There were allegations being made that some people are being bussed who do not ordinarily live in some of these places so that they can be registered and vote in such constituencies. And our response was, if any registered voter has any reason to believe that somebody may have been registered unlawfully, the law provides for an opportunity for objections. Please lodge your objections at the respective magistrates so that a hearing can be held, to test the veracity of your allegations. And here we are. There were no objections. As we speak right now, we are currently moving towards finalizing our voters registers for all the constituencies, for all the local authorities, and very soon we'll be announcing to the Namibian nation the final statistics in terms of all the 57 local authorities and all 121 constituencies.
Indeed.
So we are very happy with the state of our voters registers.
Indeed. Theo, as we close up, let's briefly talk about the ballot, the return of the ballot papers. They have caused commotions in the past. People suggesting that they are susceptible to manipulations of results and whatnot. What assurance can you give the public out there as far as ballot papers are concerned?
First of all, I need to mention here and inform your viewers that we have just completed a very important bidding process of selecting a company that will be printing ballot papers for the forthcoming elections.
Yeah.
We have selected a Durban-based South African company to print our ballot papers for the forthcoming elections. Looking at their track record, I can state here confidently that they are a reputable entity. They have printed ballot papers for the South African Electoral Commission, for Botswana, for Tanzania, and a number of other countries. So we believe that they will be able to do a good job in terms of printing our ballot papers in accordance to our specifications and delivering them on time for us to be able to have our elections.
Yeah.
Now, to come to your question, the issue of things being said about managing an electoral process using manual ballot papers are things that we have had since independence, basically, and you would attest to this. I would not want to comment to statements or pronouncements. I mean, we are here even in Parliament right now. Questions are being asked, aspersions are being cast around the use of ballot papers. And just 12 months ago, people were complaining about the electronic voting machines. The Supreme Court laid down a very important judgment. The Electoral Commission right now is complying with that judgment, that because we are unable to use EVMs with a paper trail, we are complying with the Supreme Court judgment to use ballot papers instead. That's what we're doing. We are preparing ourselves to make sure that we build sufficient security protocols around the managing an electoral process using ballot papers. I must also mention here that we will be inviting political parties or independent candidates or associations who wants to visit the printing facility in Durban, South Africa at their own cost to do so, to inspect the premises, to satisfy themselves with the quality assurance processes under which these papers will be printed. And once the papers arrive in Namibia, we will make sure that all contesting political parties and candidates and associations will be with the Electoral Commission when we open these pallets, so that people are able to ascertain how many ballot papers were printed, for which constituency, for which local authority. How many ballot paper books are being distributed to which constituencies, and what are the serial numbers of these books. So we will take them through this process. So personally, I think we have built sufficient safeguards in our processes. And really, I believe that, I want to say that political stakeholders must have confidence in the electoral process. However, if political stakeholders are not happy with something, they are free to air and express their concerns. We will listen and we will rectify.
Indeed.
But otherwise, I think we are happy with the way things are going this far. We are happy. And by the way, we did hold 2 by-elections in the beginning of the year, where we have used ballot papers for Poor Rural constituency and I think Chiwarongo constituency. So we have basically demonstrated that we are not only interested in complying with the Supreme Court judgment, but however, we are also actually capable of managing an electoral process based on manual ballot papers.
Indeed. Can you state on record what the name of the company is in Durban?
Uniprint.
Uniprint.
The name of the company is called Uniprint. It's a Durban-based South African company. We had about 5 companies altogether that submitted bids. I think 2 of them are local companies, 3 of them who were South African-based companies.
Indeed.
And I think because of the price competency, but also the track record. This company came out tops.
Yeah.
They will be printing our ballot papers for about 1.8 million Namibian dollars.
Okay.
Yes, so and we are satisfied with how things turn out.
Indeed. Theo, thank you very much for coming back.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot.
That is Theo Mujoro. He is the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission of Namibia, speaking to us about the preparedness of the Commission ahead of this year's elections. Thank you for watching and good night.